What is up, everyone? Welcome back to WX Garage. Oh, I have been so excited for the install that we are going to be doing today. I've kind of kept this a secret for a while, and I think this is going to be the last piece of the puzzle to get this car track ready. I've kind of hinted at it for a while, but I am just so excited to see these on the car and see how they feel. You guys probably already know what it is because of the thumbnail on the video and this box behind me here, but I'm just gonna put you guys on a tripod. We're gonna dive right into this video. Oh, I'm so excited. So these right here are the FactionFab Fr Spec V2 coilovers. Like I said, I am so excited because the FactionFab guys and I have been going back and forth, and these are going to be an absolute track killer setup. They have their entire V2 line, the version 2 of their coilovers coming out. These are the FR spec, and they also have the FL spec, which are the lowering ones. And then of course they still have their standard F spec, which we've done a video on. I'll put that in the corner right here so you guys can take a look at that if you want. But these FR spec are the track spec coilovers. These are exactly what I'm looking for my car to make sure that they are ready. There is a lot of new features in the V2s, which I am really excited about, and I think you guys will be too. Let's dive into what features we have on this beautiful set of coilovers here. What is new with the V2s? I'm not trying to rhyme here, but there are quite a few things. From top to bottom, these are all new pieces and an all new design, which is amazing. The FactionFab guys took these on the track, they put them on their personal vehicles, and they tested them, and they did very extensive testing to tune all the individual components that are in this. A couple things to know about the FR spec. One, the damper tube, so the shock body in here, is a bit longer, which is why they have the FL spec for people that really want to go low. This is longer because it is designed for a longer compression stroke, higher capacity for the actual valving fluid on the inside, which means we're going to have better track performance, longer performance, and it's really going to stand the test of time. It's also going to handle the high rebound at high speeds much better. We have forged collars here. So here and here, the locking collar, and then the spring seat collar right here. These are all forged now, which means that they're going to absolutely hold up over time. We are going to be adding, doing the preload in a little bit, we're going to be adding a couple different things on here to make sure that these stay healthy, stay fresh, and stay really pretty, because these look just gorgeous through the entire track season. Let's talk about the springs really quick. So these are a brand new spring. There we go, you guys can see the code there. So these are 12K springs in the front and 9.5K springs in the rear. This is going to be a very big step up from what I'm running now, which is 8K front, 8K rear. For a track purpose, the hardest thing that you have to manage with Subarus, WRXs, and STIs is understeer. You can fix that with a stronger rear sway bar to make sure the rear rotates around. And then the other thing we can do is mess with the spring rates. Now, again, the FactionFab guys have gone through and selected the spring rate that they found to be the most effective on the track, and that is 12K front, 9.5K rears. The softer rear is going to allow that car to rotate a bit more, which is amazing. Other thing I really wanted to highlight with these is the camber plate right here. So you guys, it's gonna be hard to notice now. You will see it when it's on the car, but these camber plates, you'll notice that the spot where the top of the strut comes through, it is not centered. These are offset camber plates, which means that we're going to be getting more adjustability for camber, which is what you want. We do have to dial in a pretty aggressive camber for the front for the purpose of keeping grip when we're going around corners. But the other aspect of this that is so cool is that when we shift this and offset it to one side, when we mount these into the car, this offset plate will be pushing the entire spring back towards the driver and angling it down into the knuckle, which means that we add positive caster. Positive caster is going to help with driving feel. It helps with keeping the wheel centered at high speeds. And most importantly, when you add positive caster, when you turn the wheel, you don't lose your camber. You can maintain a higher camber a more negative camber with a positive caster setup than you would normally, which means again, we're going to have even more grip going through those corners at high speeds. So everything is anodized aluminum and steel. It looks gorgeous. I don't think we're gonna have any issues of these rusting or anything like that. We do have the, also the other update I want to tell you guys about on these is the dampening, whatever you want to call it. There is 30-way dampening now, which means 30 clicks up and down that we can, well, from the center, 15 clicks up and down, a range of 30 clicks that we can go through in different settings to really tune and find the stiffness level that we want. So when we're driving this on the streets, just daily driving it, because you guys know my car is a daily driver, we're going to be putting it near the softest setting to make sure we're really comfortable. It's going to help a ton. And then when we're going to the track, we are cranking this bad boy to one of the stiffest settings. And through their testing, they found that that really makes a massive difference. So I'm going to talk to you guys more about that caster camber setup. Once I put them on the car, it's going to be a little easier to understand once we do that. Let me take a quick look, show you guys the rears really quick. So here are the rears. Same thing, we're getting those forged locking collars, which is amazing. This dust boot looks really, really sturdy, and it covers down the threads and locks on there, clamps on there. It's gonna hold on really, really well. We do have the insertable 30-way adjustment as well for these. But you'll have to, I'll show you guys how to adjust those later on. But these really look like a very, very solid option. What's amazing is that on this set of coilovers, we are getting features like a bearing in the top here, which means we're not going to get coil bind or coil spring bind essentially when we're doing hard cornering. We're getting a pillow ball mount in the top. These are all features that you're not going to see on budget coilovers from other brands. And the price point on these guys is so competitive with a lot of the things on the market. And with this amazing design, all of these amazing features, the offset caster, 30-way adjustability, the bearing in the top here, all of that combined at this price point, it's just unbeatable for what you guys are looking for if you are looking for a track spec stiffer coilover. So to set preload, they recommend a 4mm preload, which means that we are, let me unlock this and spin it. we are going to be tightening this down, this collar that seats the spring. We're going to preload the spring 4 millimeters. And what's amazing is that I don't even have to measure it because this width of these tools is exactly 4 millimeters. So first thing we're doing is, you'll notice that there's a bit of space in the spring here. So we are going to snug this seat without compressing the spring. So right about, it's a little bit of movement, so I'm just gonna go a little bit more. So right there. So then we're going to take the bottom collar and snug it right here. We want it a little bit loose. And then we're going to tighten the top collar while holding the bottom one so it doesn't spin. Oops, let's check. We're not quite there yet. Now let's check that gap between them. Not quite yet. And let's check now. That is exactly 4 millimeter gap right there. So now that we have that preload set, I'm just gonna spin up that bottom collar and lock it. So I'm gonna hold the top one where it is in position, and then we're going to lock the bottom one like that. I'm going to wait until we have these on the car to really tighten these down, so you guys will see that process as well. So the coilovers are all set up. They are all preloaded. I did go ahead and add the, it's windy today. I did go ahead and add the anti-seize to the threads where the collars are locking, which means that it's essentially going to keep those spinning freely later down the line. We're gonna be driving these really hard. I wanna protect them as much as possible. So now that that's done, let me just get the car lifted. We have done quite a few suspension and coilover install videos in the past. So I'm not really gonna be focusing on that. I'm gonna be focusing on the product, its features, how it feels later on. So for the actual install, I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit here and there, but I'm just gonna put you on a tripod. You guys have seen an install, so let's get the car raised up, throw you guys on a tripod, and let's do a time lapse. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I did install the FactionFab 25mm spacers with my winter set. So we're switching back finally to my summer set. And if I put these on with my summer sets, the NK and 18 by 9.5 plus 35, they would be poking quite a bit. And so poking so far that you'd have inches of tire outside of the fender. So making sure to take these off on all 4 sides. Though they are in amazing condition even through an entire winter. Salt grind, barely any rust at all, if not any. No, I think that's just rust that came off from the hub itself. So these things are awesome, by the way. So. Oh man, the rears here look so good. So like I said, guys, all I need to do is go in and dial in the height here in the rears, which is kind of, you know, up and down on the car, trying to find the exact height to match the fronts, to match each other on each side. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, and then it's gonna be time for a drive. To give you some context, and you probably already know because my beard is shaved, but we are a little bit of time after the original install on these coilovers. I had to push out the timeline a bit because of a couple different reasons, but this bit that I'm shooting right now has taken place after my first track day. So these coilovers performed so beautifully. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, let's take a quick look at how they turned out, what the car looks like now. Real quick, I want to point out to you guys, there is some rubbing. You'll see that line because I did add a little bit of fresh paint underneath my lip here of the fender, and that's what that line is from coming up and rubbing a little bit. The rubbing that you see on this car is not because of the coilovers. I drove this car 4 hours to and from the track with the trunk full of all of my equipment, my 3 ethanol gas tanks full, way too much weight, and because of that I was getting a little bit of rubbing in the rears, but that is absolutely not because of the coilovers. It is because of the way I have the car set up and because I need to roll the fenders more. I am running some pretty wide tires as well, pretty aggressive offset. So again, not because of the coilovers, just because of me not really being too smart. If you ignore the rubbing, you'll see that we lowered the car quite a bit in the rears. I did not want to go any lower than this with the track spec because they are designed for a track car. You do not want a track car too low. You do not want to rub because you're going over pretty aggressive bumps at high speeds. I don't think I had any rubbing issues while actually on the track. It was only going to and from because of all the extra weight I had in the car, but regardless, they look really, really good. They perform amazingly. You guys will notice that the fender gap looks a little bit higher here in the front, but that's actually just because I've rolled and pulled the fenders a bit more in the front and because the wheel is cambered, which makes that gap right here look a little bit bigger than it actually is. But the car is pretty low and it absolutely looks amazing. So I have the car warming up. I do want to go for a drive with you guys because there's one thing about these coilovers that absolutely blew my mind. Hands down, just blew my mind. And that is how much effect you can feel from changing the dampening settings. Right now I have the car pretty stiff in the rear, just because I don't want the rears to rub anymore than they already have. And again, not the coilovers' fault. That's just me and my setup. I will soften them up once I roll the fenders a little bit more in the rear. So that being said, when I first drove this car to get the suspension settled, after I got the alignment and everything, I put the front and rears at the softest setting. I did 5, well, not the softest, but 5 clicks up from the softest setting out of 30. And it blew my mind how comfortable this car is. I was really worried when I first bought these about the stiffer springs. I was a little worried about how they feel on the road and, you know, am I gonna be bouncing all over the place? No. the dampening and the shock absorption by these coilovers is just incredible. And I think they might even be more comfortable when they're at the softest setting, more comfortable than the previous coilovers I had, which were 8K front, 8K rear. These are 12K front, 9.5K rear. So that just absolutely blew my mind. So let's go for a quick drive. Let me talk a little bit more about how these feel, how they perform. On the performance side, I am going to be doing a follow-up video for you guys, specifically on how these perform at the track, when you're driving at the limit, absolutely pushing the car. I can give you a little bit of a preview on how that review's gonna go. They performed amazingly. Again, mind blown about how the same set of coilovers can be so comfortable and then so awesome and perform so well on the track over these crazy bumps that La Junta has. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is that this car can absolutely go lower than it is right now. There's more room than I used, basically. FactionFab does have the FL spec, which I will talk about at the end of the video as well, but for those of you who do want to go a little lower than you see my car is at, if you are running aggressive wheels, an aggressive offset or bigger tires or something like that, you will need to absolutely roll your fenders. But if you do want to go lower, there is more room. There's probably another ½ inch, maybe a little more, for me at least. So just wanted to mention that, but let's go for a drive and actually show you guys how this car feels. The biggest thing that you guys see with slammed cars, with really stiff springs, is when they're going over bumps, they're constantly bouncing like this. And there's a couple little bumps up here in the road that will give you guys a pretty good sense of what this car feels like. You do not have any of that porpoising. They say that in F1, obviously it's not porpoising for lowered cars or static cars, but I am just blown away with how comfortable these coilovers are. And obviously, so pretty good bump in the road there. I'm not getting thrown around in my seat. The car settles so quickly after hitting that initial impact. The car stays settled for so much longer. But what I was trying to say was, for general driving, if you guys aren't taking this car on the road, I think that these are still, if you guys are not taking this car or this set of coilovers on the track, I think this is still a pretty viable set of coilovers and an option for you guys that want a really good driving experience while still staying pretty comfortable and still having a pretty good amount of adjustability for how far to lower the car. So one thing I do want to show you, and again, this is going to be really covered more in a later video, but here's the video of a little clip of me on the track going over one of the incredibly terrible bumps at the in the middle of right between turn 2 and turn 3. You'll see me going over the bump right now. I've taken that bump at 105 miles per hour, and the car just settles within seconds right after. Wow, that was a really ballsy move from that biker. The cars just settle so quickly, and I think that's a perfect example of what you want in a coilover. You want something that's going to keep the car planted, but it's not going to be so stiff that when you go over uneven pavement, or if you go over a bad bump like that, you're not getting thrown all over the road. You're not losing traction. You're able to keep the car settled and do what you need to do with it. that confidence on the road to keep your foot in the pedal around a big curve like that, woo, feels so good. So we're getting into some really nice twisties here. Planted and flat this car stays through these corners. It's incredible. I love this Canyon. Having the confidence to not have to brake in some of these corners when you're going into them and just allowing the car to just do its thing. The coilovers add so much mechanical grip, and that's something that I've talked about in a previous video, but the difference between mechanical grip and actual grip. Actual grip is your tires, the tire width, it's defined by the tire compound, all of that. Mechanical grip is all the rest of your suspension. If you can keep the car flat through corners, you're keeping the wheels with the absolute most traction as possible. If you're having a lot of body roll, you're losing grip on the side of the car that's lifting away from the road, because you're not putting as much downforce onto the tire itself. But when you have really bad body roll, the tire will actually lose some contact patch as well. So when we have these higher spring rates, like on the FactionFab V2s here, again, 12K front, 9.5K rear, you're adding so much mechanical grip that the car just feels amazing and planted and flat through every corner. I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the quality, the design, the performance, the price point, and then also the comfort of these coilovers. So I don't really know how to summarize everything I've just shown you guys. The only thing I can really say is that I am so incredibly amazed by the quality of these coilovers, how they feel. They survived and absolutely overperformed on the track day that I did, and they're quiet. I haven't had any issues with clunking or spring bind, anything like that. Even with the stiffer springs, they've just been an absolute dream to drive on. So they are available for sale right now. I am gonna put the where you guys can buy them down in the description here. If you have any questions about these coilovers, please shoot me a message on Instagram, put it down in the comments. Also, let me guys know what you guys thought of the over-the-shoulder GoPro angle. I might start using that for the track. I think it might be a good idea, but let me know about that too. Thank you so much for watching. Again, look out for the follow-up video on this one, where I actually talk about how these coilovers perform specifically on the track when you're really pushing the car. So that'll be coming out. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you next week. Peace.